Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid. I'm Member Box, Botbrack for short. Remember, please share and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. So, don't normally do new album reviews, but I just had to do my own review of the new ABBA album. Basically, a few months ago when it got announced, I was actually away in Wales with my wife, and then it kind of sprung to my mind, ABBA are dropping 2 new tracks today, I think, because I knew about the Avatar thing they were planning. And then we literally started listening in the cars. We were driving back to our hotel. And then when we got in, we literally put the phone down, and then we heard I Still Have Faith in You, and we heard that they'd done a new album. So it was just like massive shock, and my wife was getting quite emotional when she heard the song for the first time, when we heard Frida and Agneta singing together. So I thought what I'd do is go through track by this and just talk a bit about other ABBA albums as well. Typically, a lot of people, everyone knows an ABBA song, they put an ABBA song they like, even though they don't admit it, but a lot of people's ABBA experience is ABBA Gold, or some kind of greatest hits compilation. I actually have the ABBA albums, most of them. The first couple aren't that great, so I don't have those. But there's a lot of different styles and like cool cuts in them. And this album kind of reflects that. It's kind of like a bit of a journey through ABBA. I was on another site before, forget his name, Professor something or other, and he did a really good insight into this, and he actually said which tracks would make ABBA Gold, which tracks would make more ABBA Gold, and then he came up with the term ABBA Silver, for something that's pretty good but not as good, and then ABBA Bronze, not that good. So I think that's a good way of approaching these tracks. So this album's produced by Benny and Bjorn. I think Benny doing quite a lot of the work. Some great. What I should say first, the production's really good. It sounds like ABBA. But just a little bit of the, modern shit. The mastering's good. It's got like punch and more expansive sound because of the way you can record now. But essentially, it makes no concession to modern music at all. It's basically ABBA turn up and just sound like a kind of maturer, kind of strange version of ABBA at times. I think that's illustrated by the opening track, I Still Have Faith in You. I'll get this out of the bat. I've always liked this song right off from when I first heard it, but I think it's a classic. I think this would easily work on ABBA Gold. I think it's really epic. It's got a great orchestration, it's got great guitar, that melody line, the drums sound great. And the way the track builds, it's just truly anthemic. I think the first thing you notice about this is a couple of things with Frida's voice is she's sounding more Swedish, the way she says you. And Agneta, when Agneta comes in, their voices are kind of sounding similar now. What's happened is Frida always had a slightly deeper sort of tone to her voice and sung in a low register. But her voice is just really thinned out a little bit, as that can happen when you get older. And obviously it's probably dropped, her range has probably dropped a little bit, probably about 70 of a tone, and as you get older your voice can kind of sound a bit thicker as well. So it's kind of, to me, Frida's kind of gone a bit more thinner into Agneta's territory, Agneta's gone a little thicker into Frida's. So that's quite interesting, because the classic thing with the ABBA singing was the way the two voices blended, because their frequencies kind of combined and made this fat sound. But I think this would easily work on ABBA Gold, like I said. It's a great track. 5 minutes and 9 seconds, the longest track on the album. Should say the album's only 37 minutes, only 10 tracks, and that's in keeping with ABBA tradition. All their original releases had 9 or 10 tracks. And were typically between sort of 34, 33 minutes and 40 minutes. Next track is When You Dance With Me. This is really catchy. It's got a catchy keyboard line. It's basically kind of got a Celtic influence. Lyrics about Kilkenny. It's really cheesy, but in a good way. I would say this would work on more ABBA Gold. It's not ABBA Gold standard, but it's got a really nice production. Again, it's got really nice drums, really nice feel. I'd say the girl singing on this sounds kind of more like traditional ABBA. If you play this track to someone, you'd easily think, you wouldn't think it was women who are kind of hitting 70 and just over 70. It's quite amazing. Only 2 minutes 50, and maybe I'd like it if this track was a bit longer. But it's a solid sort of second level ABBA track. The third track, this is The Little Things. So this is slightly problematic. It's a kind of Christmas song. It's really saccharine. It's really kind of sickly sweet, but it shows like Benny and Bjorn's skill at kind of writing songs that feel like they've always been there. So it's almost like, let's dust off an old Scandinavian Christmas song and put a new spin on it. I think my main problem is it comes in too early in the thing. My wife was listening to this with me, and she felt this should come at the end, and we actually listened to the last track and then queued this up at the end, and it does work because it's a Christmas song. It feels like it should just come at the end, like Happy New Year off the Voulez-Vous album. But I don't dislike it. It's got kids singing at the end. It's just more its placement. It's probably, as I've gone on through the album, it's probably my least favourite track. Next track people might be familiar with, and this is probably the bang out. This is the track, if you played this to someone, you just think nothing had changed in 4 years. This is Don't Shut Me Down. So when Anietta starts singing this, again, you can hear like how her voice has matured, but this is fantastic. This is probably the one track where they've gone, let's give them an ABBA banger, because they're kind of experimenting quite a bit, really. This is 3 minutes 56. Stylistically, this would fit on the Super Trooper or the Super Trooper or the Visitors album, but it's actually its string arrangements actually recall If It Wasn't for the Nights off Voulez-Vous. So it's fitting in that latter period of ABBA. I'm just quickly going back. The second track, When You Dance With Me, and that kind of sounds like a Rival era. Little Things is kind of like An Angel Passing Through My Room from the Visitors album, in sort of touch and tonality, but just very sickly sweet. Okay, so sorry, just jump back there, but Don't Shut Me Down, great track. That's like, it's on the money. So the next track is Just an Ocean. Quite interesting, this is actually from 1978, so what they've done is taken the original vocals from the 78 demo, which you can hear online, and they've reproduced the track with modern production. This works really well. This is a track, I would say this is somewhere between a more ABBA Gold and ABBA Gold level. Again, reminds me of the Arrival and ABBA the album era. This was actually written for the Voulez-Vous sessions, but quite rightly wouldn't fit in with that. The disco pop stylings of Voulez-Vous. This track wouldn't be suitable, but the vocals obviously sound amazing. It's got those brilliant Benny changes, and that's the other thing on this album as well. Benny, you realise his skill at putting in what I call secondary hooks. You can hear like how someone like Max Martin's influenced by that, another Swede, where you've got the vocal melodies, the main hook, but he puts in those little piano fills and there's little string melodies, and there's always like an extra hook going on in the tunes, and this has got that. 3 minutes 31, really good. It's got a Waterloo, kind of got the glam rock vibe of Waterloo and Ring Ring as well. So again, touching base with that classic ABBA sound. So the next track is I Can Be That Woman. This is quite interesting. It's a ballad. It's very, very emotional ballad, and yet singing. Interesting lyric. Kind of actually from the Dogs' point of view. So Bjorn writes some mental lyrics on this. So it's kind of the couples having problems, and it's almost how the dog emotionally perceives things. It's not sung from the dog's point of view, but it's kind of including like how the dog reacts when they're arguing, which is kind of interesting because loads of people have pet dogs, and dogs are really intuitive animals, so it's such an unusual thing to do a lyric about. This has a kind of quite a country pop style. You can imagine Dolly Parton singing it, Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, that kind of vibe. And it's got that kind of, there's kind of maudlin strings, and there's the main chord in the middle, there's a little bit rock set as well. So, I couldn't really think of a comparison. This would kind of fit in maybe with the ABBA album, I've Been Waiting For You, that sort of vibe. I kind of liking this track more. I kind of was really liking it, and I kind of was like, went off it a bit, and now I'm like, actually, it's really lovely. I should just say, I've listened to it 12 times. I didn't want to do a review and just listen to it a few times. I've actually gone down, I've given this a deep listen. What happened actually, I ordered it on Amazon and the thing didn't arrive on the Friday or the Saturday, so we were on a drive somewhere, my wife and I, we bought it in Tesco's and we managed to play it 6 times in the car, so that was really interesting. And it occurred to me, I said to my wife, I said, we'll never experience this again. I've never bought an ABBA album on the day of release, because when I was younger and I loved them as a kid, I didn't buy records, and then probably never make an album again. And this was it. We bought it the day after release. Okay, so the next track, again, really unusual lyrics, is Keep an Eye on Dan. Cool sort of Visitors, Super Trooper voulez-vous vibe, and it actually has a motif from the SOS keyboard part, boom, at the end. This is really good, really cool vocal, the layering on the vocals. It's got that cool voulez-vous, album sound. And it's about co-parenting. Basically, she's dropping her child off with the divorced, separated father, as it were, for the week. She's going away, and it's keeping an eye on Dan, the kid. He can be like that. Again, pretty weird, but it's a cool track. It's that thing that they do, it's that mature pop that they started to do from the Winner Takes It All, really. Maybe Voulez-Vous album, but there's that kind of mature things coming into the lyrics. I mean, Knowing Me, Knowing You was as well, but, ABBA were going in an interesting direction when they packed in, although I think it was kind of cool that they did. And this captures that, so another good track. Next track, there seems to be a bit of controversy about, but I think this is the other saccharine sweet song, and I think this works really well. I think this is really lovely. It's called Bumblebee, and it's an age-appropriate track. Frida sings it. It's basically the protagonist is obviously sitting in a garden, admiring like bumblebees, but also thinking about how bumblebees are kind of endangered and kind of represent the threat to the planet, so to speak, in terms of global warming and stuff. Although it doesn't lay that on heavy. But it's very nice. It's just really kind of pleasant. And, if you're going to have a twee track, this stays the right side of the line in the way that the Little Things goes over that line. And there's another, again, it's a bit like an angel passing through my room off the Visitors. It's got that vibe. Again, with Frida singing and the kind of chiming clock type of thing. I forget it, when you open the ballerina spinning, those things. But it's also got like some string arrangements or pipe arrangements that be like Fernando. So again, it's touching base with that classic ABBA sound, but kind of doing something they haven't done before. Next track was a track I really didn't like when I first heard it. No doubt about it. Starts off with the chorus, really catchy, but it's got a really poor first verse. The lyrics a bit poor, the rhyming. And I've got to say, Aniette's delivery on the first verse just doesn't work, which is weird because when it comes to the bridge, she brings out some big notes and that brilliant sort of mid-range and that vibrato she has, when she hits one of those, higher notes but not stratospheric. And that's fantastic. It's got a really catchy chorus and it's actually a really good banging tune. Again, would be a silver level track. I've kind of skipped over that. Like Bumblebee and Keep an Eye on Dan and I Can Be That Woman. I would say silver leather tracks. I think I said Just an Ocean would be somewhere between More ABBA Gold and ABBA Gold. No doubt about it, would be a silver leather one. It kind of, if you listen to an album like Arrival, it would be one of those kind of tracks in the middle. You're like, actually, I really like that. I'm just, it's good. Yeah, aside from that verse, stick with this track. I think that's one of the stories of the album as well, is if you stick with it, listen, this isn't an immediate album. It's immediately got to ABBA sound. There's enough in it that's like, makes you want to listen more. But it's rewarding on successive listens. So the final track's Ode to Freedom. I suppose this is a kind of big orchestrally finishing track. Again, touching base probably with Arrival instrumental that finishes the Arrival album, but it has a vocal part. It's Frida and yet in unison, probably kind of pushing Frida's voice a bit more. And it doesn't have a typical song structure. It's more like an anthem. It feels like a kind of anthem for the EU or an anthem to recognise some kind of special anniversary in Sweden or something. It's got a great orchestral arrangement. Benny's done a bang-up job. I think he references Swan Lake. It's very good, very well produced, this track. There was a part of me was thinking, maybe this could have started the album and then segued into I Still Have Faith in You, because it's kind of like the band's kind of arriving as one, but not individually. The kind of, we're here, but we've not kind of dissected yet to kind of show ourselves. It's kind of weird. That's sort of my take on the album. I'm just looking if there's any kind of little things I've missed up on notes, but I can't see anything there. So there's two ABBA classics. There's I Still Have Faith in You, Don't Shut Me Down. They could grace any ABBA album. Don't Shut Me Down is the one that kind of sounds like a typical sort of late pop banger by ABBA. I Still Have Faith in You is just quite a unique musical style ABBA track that's just really great. Just an Ocean and When You Dance With Me are kind of good kind of album tracks that would fit in the Arrival ABBA the album era. I Can Be That Woman, I Can Keep An Eye On Dan, Bumblebee, No Doubt About It. Again, fitting in the later era and the earlier era, good tracks. Ode to Freedom, a bit more unique, but obviously it's just the little things that kind of jars. That needed to go last. It's nice to put Christmas song, but it should have been on the end. So what would I mark this out of 10? I think it's easily a 7. Most of the reviews for this is getting an average rating. There's some people poo-pooing it, but they're not ABBA fans. But the general consensus of opinion seems to be a 7 or 2 and 8, and I think that's fair. Where would I put it in that lineage of ABBA? It's better than Ring Ring or Waterloo, which just don't really kind of work as albums. They're kind of finding their feet. Is it better than ABBA from 1975? Well, obviously ABBA from 1975 has got Mamma Mia, So Long, I Do, and a fantastic SOS. But the other tracks aren't that great. Maybe I've Been Waiting For You's good. So it probably kind of maybe is as good as it or steps past it. There's no way it's as good as Arrival. Arrival's one of the all-time great pop albums. ABBA, the album, that one has got some incredible tracks, but it's always been a bit patchy and it feels a bit incomplete for me. And you've got the kind of musical medley on the end, thank you for the music. So it maybe works better than that as an album, although that's got great tracks. It's not as good as Voulez-Vous, Super Trooper or The Visitors, which are all kind of sophisticated pop albums that show different sides to the band. But it's like a gift, really. None of us were expecting this album. I said, I was thinking to myself, it's like someone hadn't made you a cake for years, like your mum, and you walk in, you go, oh, I've made you a cake, and it's such a pleasant surprise, and you eat it, and it's lovely, and you're like, oh, it's not as good as the cakes, they used to have, but it's just so lovely that this cake was made for me. And that's what it is, and I don't think it's been totally nostalgic. Obviously there's nostalgic elements in the sound, but they're not interested in trying to pursue things that necessarily people are going to think ABBA should be doing. They're singing lyrically about things that represent people who've been divorced as usual, but certainly their age, 70-year-olds being grandparents, stuff like that. The sort of mix of tracks is a kind of, you can trace back sounds going back to a song like Waterloo, Ring Ring, and right up to The Visitors. So it's kind of a compendium of the previous 8 ABBA albums. There's sounds and feels that would work on those records, but it kind of sets out its own stall, this is the album ABBA maybe could have made in 1983. The last album was at the end of 1981, so I imagine they wouldn't have done an album in 82. So yeah, that's my review of ABBA Voyage. I think it's well worth anyone's money. I think this will sell a shitload for the Christmas market. People buying it for parents for Christmas. Apparently in iTunes, download charts, Spotify, it's streaming very high. I think they've hit the jackpot again, and I think the Avatar thing in London in 2022 and beyond will continue the legacy of, for me, undoubtedly the greatest pop band, pure pop band in history. For me, ABBA. Totally unique. Okay, cheers, thanks for checking out, and I'll see you again. Thanks very much.